We're all about the Archers. I'm Philippa.
I'm Quentin.
And we are here today to talk to you all about what's happened so far this week. We will be particularly focusing on the episodes of Sunday the 1st of December, Monday the 2nd of December, and tonight, Tuesday the 3rd of December. You have been warned, there will be spoilers. Well, Quentin, what do we think about the week so far?
Well, it's nice to have Ambridge back again, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Exactly. Thank goodness.
I feel mildly scammed that we haven't got any more scam week, actually, but I can't say that I'm sad about it. I mean, a lot's been said about it. But I do think we ought to flag up this wonderful post by Jackie Stothard, who's on our Facebook group, which I know you've seen as well, Philippa. And she posted, "Has anyone any experience of a scam holiday booking site, please? We're looking to book a winter break, and I've heard there are some available where if you pay them lots of your hard-earned cash, you get a fab holiday. The accommodation may not be as advertised, but what you do get is to bunk up with friendly cosmopolitan folk. It's all-inclusive, fully catered with farm tour, a celebratory dinner at no extra cost, marriage guidance, and a free antique thrown in. Where do I sign up?" And I think, Jackie, you speak for most of us, not everybody, because I have to be fair, quite a few people were posting that they were beginning to enjoy it. And they liked the change of gear. There was one scene I did enjoy. I did acknowledge that, the Chuck, Faith, Clary and Eddie scene, which I thought was nicely written, nicely acted, and Clary dropped all her pretenses. But it was... I think a lot of people felt their intelligence was being insulted, didn't they? I mean, it was farcical. It was ridiculous. There were too many people being scammed, turning up. And I have some sympathy for the editors, the script editors, because I worked for the BBC for decades, and I know what it's like when those on high in the BBC impose a strand from on high on everybody, and you have to shoehorn it in, whether you like it or not. So I'm sure it was difficult for the script editors to adjust and adapt to it, but boy, did they put us through the ringer, didn't they?
I'd rather talk about boy racers, to be honest.
Would you? Bike racers?
Boy racers.
Well, Leonard racers.
Yes, that's what he was described as.
Yes.
Ruth was like, "That's a boy racer."
Boy racer.
I mean,
Yes.
I think let's just put Scam Week behind us.
Would you agree with most of that, what I've just said?
Oh, absolutely. I'm just glad to see the back of it, and I've written in capitals, "Hurrah, no Scam Week." So, yes.
Well, that pretty much sums it up. I mean, I took 3 minutes for you to say "Hurrah, no Scam Week." Shall we move on to this evening?
Let's move on.
All right.
So, we've had the whole Leonard issue. We've had Mick being Father Christmas. We've had the council meeting. Lots to talk about. What is top of your fave or flop list?
I say bravo, Brian. Bravo, Brian. He, the man makes one appearance and he just steals it, doesn't he? Emma suspects him of complaining to the council. He hasn't, and I believe him, actually. But the reasons he sets out why he thinks a complaint is justified is completely tenable, in my opinion. And I think Ed knows it as well. And that's going to be an interesting conversation, isn't it, when he goes back to Emma and says, yeah, it wasn't Brian, but he did make one or two good points.
Yeah, I don't think he dare say that. As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter who complained. I agree. I mean, some people may disagree with this, but I agree it should be discussed at the council meeting. She technically broke the law. That's why the police were considering the position and whether to take it further. And that would conflict with her role on the council. So however well-intentioned she was.
I was quite impressed because I think the scriptwriters were alluding to what are known as the Newton principles, which I'm sure you're familiar with, Philippa.
Absolutely. In so much detail, I wouldn't want to bore you.
Yeah, but if I may, I think they were introduced by John Major when he was Prime Minister, and it sets out the 7 principles that public servants should adhere to and work by. And she was hauled up on honesty, integrity and lawfulness. So I think there is a case to be answered. There is. I mean, she covered it up.
I did like Robert, though, trying to get her to go to the fancy meeting and saying he'd missed it. It's the sort of thing that happens to me. You convince someone to come back or to do something, and then later on you discover it's all going to go pear-shaped and you've got to eat your words and retract it. And I just thought, oh, yeah, I like Robert's intentions. We had nice Robert, and
good point.
and he was trying his best.
I've got a note here saying, and I put it down as a fave, that new Robert was much more like old Robert.
Yes. It's interesting because we had nasty Robert and now we've got nice Robert. We had nasty Ruth a couple of weeks ago. And since Scam Week, we seem to now have nice Ruth. I don't understand what's going on, but never mind.
Well, new Robert didn't sound anything like old Robert when he first appeared. And I think that rankled with a lot of us. I just hope they stick with new old Robert, if that makes sense.
Yes. Any other faves or flops?
Oh, yeah. Outrageous that Linda referred to an upcoming performance. That was, I loathe that word, upcoming. There's a beautiful English word called forthcoming. And Linda would never in a month of Sundays use that ghastly word upcoming. So that was a terrible flop. And then
What?
Dreadful word, upcoming, awful. It is just not required. Forthcoming is a beautiful English word, Philippa. And as a look at all those books behind you, as somebody who celebrates the English language, you should thoroughly agree with me. Ben to David, oh God, you can't say spring chicken. Oh, goodness sake.
Don't you
Ridiculous.
come at my Ben.
Don't you come at me with that pencil. Don't you come. I mean, how PC is that? I mean, of course, why can't you say somebody isn't a spring chicken anymore? Who are you insulting? Chickens? That was a flop. And how about you? Any flops for you?
Well, Ruth not wearing a helmet when she was on the quad bike and saying it keeps cutting out. I mean, something's going to happen. It's either the quad bike or the electric bike.
Yes.
Something is going to happen. A flop of mine was Leonard saying, oh, how sustainable an electric bike is. And I was thinking, well, is it more sustainable than a bike? I'm not entirely sure it is.
Well, you've got to manufacture the batteries and do all the mining and disposable.
Exactly. I wasn't quite sure about that one. I've mentioned the flop of how we've got nice Ruth again, having had nasty Ruth again. Another flop was Jolene thinking if they just add more fairy lights to the bull, it will attract more people in. I don't think that. I think people don't have money. That's the problem.
It's the Ambridge fairy all over again. Zainab jumped in again, didn't she, in a lovely, wonderful way that she is. It's a delight to hear from Zainab again, shouting at David. I suppose this time. I'm surprised. Don't stop stabbing me with your pencil.
Your name is absolutely going on.
Well, she's rude. I've said this before.
No. Oh my goodness. She had a man chasing her and shouting at her. Zainab made me laugh so much. I thought she was absolutely brilliant.
Can I qualify this? I think she was her usual rude way herself initially, but then she explained why she was being rude, and she was right.
Okay. That's all right then. I will.
David acted like a chump, and he admits it.
He did. Complete chump.
I'd rather have. Why does Zainab always have to start off aggressive? I mean, in this instance, you could say she's
assertive and good for her.
She's
always woman assertive. No, I'm not having that.
But she's always assertive and aggressive. You don't. The people have. You can change gear.
Of two different things.
You can change gear. You don't always have to be that. I'm sorry. But anyway.
We heard that Leonard had been to the opticians, which is why he couldn't take delivery of the e-bike. I just think maybe David needs to go to the opticians because he sees someone going past that's on a scooter and thinks that's Leonard on
petrol
an
scooter.
E-bike.
But
not convinced.
Who identified? Tonight. It was David who identified speeding Leonard, wasn't it?
Yeah,
whizzing by and said to Ruth, "That's him." But it wasn't. I know.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering the chronology. Was it Ruth or David who said it was Leonard?
No, Ruth was boy racer, and David was Leonard, and Zainab was no.
Yes.
That's the order of events.
We need to talk about this I mean, we got Ambridge back, but of course they gave us a heavy dollop of annoyance, potential annoyance, is this Santa brunch and Mick and his terrifying portrayal of Santa Claus. This is destined to be extremely annoying and irritating, isn't it?
I loved the silences that we had in the episode when Mick was trying out his Santa accent as Kenton and Jolene were trying to process just how awful it was. And I like some silences that allow us to build the response in our own mind. I think it's brave to do, and it makes it all the better. This is another time that Kenton and Jolene have failed. They failed to get rid of Mick from their car park, and they failed to get rid of him being Santa or Pirate Santa. As I said, he sounds like he's a pirate, not Father Christmas.
Well, I would suggest a pirate sounds less terrifying than he does as Santa.
And normal voice Mick is awful as well.
Even creepier.
And yes, Linda's intervention I loved, but the fact that she thinks it's fabulous. This Christmas darkness, just what you need for a family brunch. Like a devil goat. Creepy Christmas.
Creepy Christmas. And some reference that you're more erudite than I am to Krampus and Lucy's Night. I've never heard of that, but that's all about creepy Christmas. Yes. Also a flop. When who declared this? This was nonsense. When Kenton declared that it's a big thing being Santa for many men. I can unequivocally tell you I have never desired to be Santa dressed up in a sweaty, smelly costume with puking kids on coming up to me, screaming. And so no, never. It has not been a dream of mine to be Santa.
But when the word Santa brunch was mentioned, I was in. I mean, I just think that's absolutely exceptional. And I think you're ready for my food mentions, Quentin. So I will just go on to that important subject because I know you're keen. That's why you brought up the subject of Santa brunch. Yes, please. We had roast chicken, lasagna, toasted panettone, brunch, pistachio muffin, protein bar, BLT. A lovely selection. And for those listening, not watching, Q has a sign now saying #ChuckItInP. Never. It's food. And a Santa brunch, it sounds, as long as Mick's not there being a pirate, I would love to be there. A bit of scrambled eggs, smoked salmon, sausages, bacon, and Father Christmas. I'm there. Would you be there?
I'd like a Santa brunch, yeah. But I mean, we're wasting time talking about it. But
we are wasting time. And very quickly, I must just say, if you want more of this, do click follow if you're listening and subscribe if you're watching, so you get automatic notifications of when further episodes arrive. And if you'd like to support us on a one-off basis, you can buy us a coffee, or on a regular basis, you could become a patron. The next Patreon Live is the 7th of March. Links and details in the show notes. Now we need to go on to Star of the Week. Who is your Star of the Week?
Well, I've given it away. I mean, initially it was Leonard for infuriating Linda. But he has been banged to rights by Zainab, who she's a Speedy Gonzales herself on her petrol scooter. But she is alarmed by Leonard's recklessness on the road. She described him as a liability, so he cannot be Star of the Week. But I mean, obviously, an easy replacement for Leonard is my beloved Brian. As I intimated at the top, I mean, he's a stellar intervention, I thought, from our Brian.
Well, up to today's episode, my Star of the Week was Ben, which I'm sure will thrill you, because he said to David, don't be offensive about Leonard, and he refused to have a word with him. I'm not doing your dirty work, he said to David, and quite right, Ben. But today, I have to give the Star of the Week to Ed. He loves Emma. He's trying to help.
Yeah.
He's checking Brian's crab apples. He's asking Brian, and he's on our podcast. Saturday is an interview with the wonderful Barry Farriman, who plays Ed Grundy. We recorded it yesterday. He is a joy and a delight. And I can't wait for you all to listen to that. Predictions, Q, hit me.
Well, we sort of already alluded to the obvious ones. Either Leonard or Ruth is going to come a cropper from their mode of transport. But I have two others, and I know some of us on this podcast have been quoted in the latest edition of the Sunday Telegraph.
True.
I think there was the whole inheritance tax issue, which only got about 30 seconds, mentioned by David last week, the other week, just after the budget. I think that's going to come up, actually, and be discussed in much more detail. And I think it's going to prompt Ruth and David to consider the inheritance issue at Brookfield, and who of their children should inherit Brookfield, and make sure that they obviously hang around for at least 7 years themselves, so they don't pay any inheritance tax. So I think that's my long-term prediction. I think we're going to hear more of that, and the programme's been criticised for not touching on it enough to date. My other prediction is that I think the parish council complaint has been lodged by George.
Well, that's an intriguing one. That's flummoxed me. I did go silent, but
tumbleweed that was.
Fair enough. At Brookfield, there is already a partnership agreement, so they have made quite a few steps already to alleviating inheritance tax. But
you had
I'm
to ruin
sure
that. You
that
just
will
had
be covered.
Sunday Telegraph expert. Yes. Well done, by the way. You plugged out this podcast as well. Excellent.
Thank you very much. And welcome to all the new listeners who've come to us from that. Very briefly, we haven't mentioned the rules and laws about bikes and speeding and all the legislation, but we'll save that for another day. My predictions: Joy is about to suffer a mental breakdown because she loved Mick Santa and thought it was brilliant. Get help, Joy. Seek medical attention immediately.
Well, so did Linda.
Yes, but yeah, well.
Yeah, okay.
We haven't heard about Brad missing his lectures. I fear that's imploding very soon. And I imagine people will be arriving by busloads in Ambridge saying that they have been scammed just in order to obtain free accommodation in the Brookfield barn. That'll be the whole new scam. But there we are. That's this week. As I mentioned, we'll be back on Saturday with an interview with Baz, who plays the fabulous Ed Grundy.
He's wonderful.
He really is. And I'll be back next week with Lauren. So that'll be more of our madness. Until then, it's a goodbye from me.
She'll give you an easier time than me. It's a goodbye from me.
Goodbye, everyone.